How does IHL protect cultural property from destruction? Imagine walking through a city and seeing a historic monument shattered or a priceless artwork destroyed. It's heartbreaking, but international law steps in to prevent that from happening. International Humanitarian Law, or IHL, has rules to protect cultural property during armed conflicts. Cultural property includes monuments, artworks, historic sites, and scientific collections that belong to the heritage of peoples everywhere. These rules are designed to keep history and culture safe from harm during war. First, IHL treats cultural property as civilian objects. This means it is not a legitimate target for attack. The principle of distinction requires parties to a conflict to tell the difference between military targets and civilian objects like cultural sites. Attacking cultural property is forbidden unless it is used for military purposes or directly involved in hostilities. Next, the principle of proportionality prevents attacks that would cause excessive damage to cultural property compared to the military advantage gained. Even if a cultural site is near a military target, parties must weigh the harm and avoid unnecessary destruction. The principle of precaution then obliges forces to take all feasible steps to avoid harming cultural property. This includes planning operations carefully and issuing clear orders to troops to protect these sites. Beyond these general rules, specific treaties strengthen protection. The 1950 Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in the Event of Armed Conflict was the first treaty dedicated solely to cultural heritage. It requires states to safeguard cultural property within their borders and respect it in other territories. It also bans theft, vandalism, and using cultural sites for military purposes that could damage them. The 1999 Second Protocol to this convention adds an extra layer of protection called enhanced protection. This applies to cultural property of the greatest importance to humanity, such as UNESCO-registered sites, which must be legally protected and not used for military reasons. Only in cases of strict military necessity can destruction be justified. In occupied territories, international law requires occupying powers to prevent theft, illicit export, or destruction of cultural property. They must also return any items taken unlawfully. This helps preserve cultural heritage even during conflict. During hostilities, armed forces are expected to plan operations with awareness of cultural sites. Commanders must issue orders forbidding attacks on cultural property and ensure troops follow these rules. When cultural sites are at risk, parties should take extra precautions, such as avoiding placing military objectives near them. Protecting cultural property also supports the broader goal of safeguarding civilians and their environment. Damage to cultural heritage can harm a community's identity and history, which are vital to human dignity. In summary, IHL protects cultural property through general rules that treat it as civilian objects, reinforced by treaties like the 1950 Hague Convention and its 1999 Protocol. These laws requiring respect, safeguarding, and strict limits on destruction, only allowing it when military necessity leaves no other choice. These protections extend to occupied areas and demand practical steps during conflicts to keep cultural heritage safe and help preserve the identity of communities around the world.